In the middle of New York City, a golden retriever named Ruby lay unmoving on the chilly asphalt, her once bright spirit dimming fast. Beside her stood Max, her loyal companion, his eyes full of worry and a silent plea for someone to stop and help. As dawn broke over the city's concrete jungle, their bond would be pushed to its limit in a test of love, loyalty, and sheer willpower. In the bustling streets of New York City, where the cacophony of car horns and hurried footsteps created a symphony of urban life, a heart-wrenching scene unfolded beneath the indifferent gaze of passers-by. Amidst the concrete jungle, two dogs, living symbols of love and loyalty, faced a trial that would forever alter their lives. Ruby, a beautiful golden retriever with a coat that once shimmered like sunlight, lay motionless on the cold asphalt, victim of a terrible road accident. Beside her, Max, her faithful companion, stood guard with unwavering determination. Their eyes, brimming with mutual affection, told a story of love stronger than words could express. As dawn broke over the city, bathing the streets in a golden glow, the world seemed to have stopped for Ruby and Max. Hurried pedestrians skirted around them, occasionally casting furtive glances, but no one paused to offer assistance. Max, in an act of desperation and bravery, let out feeble barks, silently pleading for help for his beloved. Hours ticked by, and Ruby's condition worsened. Her breathing grew labored, and her eyes, once sparkling with life, began to lose their luster. Max, refusing to abandon hope, gently licked Ruby's face as if trying to infuse her with strength and courage. It was then that Ethan, a young college student, noticed the scene while returning from his classes. Touched by the dog's plight, he approached slowly, his heart constricting at the sight of injured Ruby and vigilant Max. Ethan knelt beside them, speaking in soft, reassuring tones. "It's okay, guys. I'm here to help." With gentle movements, Ethan examined Ruby, his eyes assessing the severity of her injuries. Max watched warily, a mix of hope and suspicion in his gaze. Ethan's mind raced, knowing that every second counted. He quickly dialed the emergency number for the local animal rescue, his voice urgent as he described the situation. The wait felt interminable. Ethan remained by the dog's side, offering water to Ruby and softly petting Max to comfort him. A small crowd began to gather, some offering assistance, others simply watching with concern. Ethan's presence seemed to have broken the spell of indifference that had surrounded the scene earlier. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the animal rescue team arrived. The rescuers, though accustomed to such situations, were visibly moved by Max's devotion to Ruby. With infinite care, they assessed Ruby's condition, confirming the gravity of her injuries. Max, while cautious, seemed to understand that these people were there to help. The journey to the veterinary clinic was fraught with tension. Max refused to leave Ruby's side, and the rescuers, understanding the deep bond between the two dogs, decided to transport them together. In the ambulance, Max remained pressed against Ruby, offering silent comfort as sirens wailed through the city streets. At the clinic, the medical team immediately took charge of Ruby. The veterinarians, touched by the story of the two dogs, resolved to do everything in their power to save her. The days that followed were a true battle for survival. Ruby underwent surgery after surgery, fighting for her life with a strength that no one had anticipated. Max, meanwhile, refused to leave the corridor outside the operating room. He waited patiently, his eyes fixed on the door, as if by sheer force of will he could help Ruby heal. The clinic staff, moved by Max's unwavering loyalty, made sure he was comfortable and cared for, understanding that his presence was crucial to Ruby's recovery. As days turned into weeks, Ruby slowly began to show signs of improvement. Each small progress was celebrated as a victory. Max was allowed short visits with Ruby, moments where time seemed to stand still. Ruby's eyes would light up at the sight of Max, and her tail would wag weakly, a sign that the love they shared was stronger than the pain she endured. Ethan, who had first come to their aid, visited the clinic regularly, checking on Ruby's progress and spending time with Max. He felt a deep connection to the two dogs, their story having touched something profound within him. Ethan's dedication to their care went beyond his initial involvement, and he often stayed late, offering comfort and support to both Ruby and Max. As the first month of convalescence drew to a close, a decisive turning point occurred. Ruby, for the first time since her accident, managed to stand without assistance. This moment, captured by one of the veterinary nurses, became a symbol of hope for everyone involved in her care. The video showed Ruby, wobbly but determined, taking her first steps towards Max, who waited with eyes shining with love and encouragement. This small victory galvanized not only Ruby and Max but the entire clinic team. Rehabilitation sessions intensified, each day bringing its own set of small miracles. Ruby, once so fragile, began to regain her zest for life, her eyes lighting up every time Max entered her room. The second month marked even more significant progress. Ruby could now walk short distances, her gait becoming more assured with each passing day. The veterinarians, initially cautious in their prognosis, began to speak of a full recovery. This prospect filled with hope all those who had followed their story. Throughout this journey, Ethan's involvement deepened. He spent countless hours at the clinic, assisting where he could and providing emotional support to both Ruby and Max. His dedication did not go unnoticed by the clinic staff, who saw in him a compassionate soul deeply committed to animal welfare. As Ruby regained her strength, the moments she shared with Max became increasingly precious. The nurses often found them cuddled together, as if the simple act of being close was enough to heal all wounds. Their bond, already strong before the accident, seemed to have strengthened through this ordeal, becoming a living testament to unconditional love. The third month brought even more dramatic changes. Ruby, now able to walk without difficulty, began to explore the clinic's gardens, always accompanied by her faithful Max. Their rediscovered complicity was a joy for all who observed them. Ruby's happy barks echoed through the clinic's corridors, bringing smiles to everyone's faces. It was during one of these outdoor sessions that something unexpected happened. A couple visiting a friend at the clinic noticed Ruby and Max playing in the garden. Intrigued by the obvious bond between the two dogs, they approached Ethan, who was watching over them, and asked about their story. Ethan, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm, recounted the tale of Ruby and Max's journey, from the dire situation on the streets to Ruby's miraculous recovery. The couple, John and Lisa Thompson, listened intently, visibly moved by the dog's story of love and resilience. As Ethan finished his narration, John and Lisa exchanged a meaningful glance. They had recently lost their own beloved dog and had been considering adopting again. The story of Ruby and Max touched their hearts deeply, and they felt an immediate connection to the pair. "What will happen to them once Ruby is fully recovered?" Lisa asked, her voice filled with concern and hope. Ethan's face clouded slightly. "We're not sure yet. They've been through so much together, and separating them is out of the question. We're hoping to find a special home that can take both of them." If Ruby and Max's journey touched your heart, don't miss out on more inspiring animal stories. Your support helps us share these tales of hope and resilience. Hit subscribe now and join our community of animal lovers. Together, let's celebrate the power of love and second chances. John and Lisa's eyes met again, a silent understanding passing between them. "We might be interested in adopting them," John said softly. "We have a large house with a big yard and we work from home. We could give them all the love and care they need." Ethan's heart leapt at these words. He had grown deeply attached to Ruby and Max over the past months and had been worried about their future. The prospect of them finding a loving home together seemed almost too good to be true. The Thompson's offer set in motion a series of events that would change Ruby and Max's lives once again. The clinic staff, while overjoyed at the possibility of a happy ending for the pair, wanted to ensure that the Thompsons were fully prepared for the responsibility of caring for Ruby, who would need ongoing medical attention. Over the next few weeks, John and Lisa visited the clinic regularly, spending time with Ruby and Max and learning about Ruby's specific needs. They met with the veterinarians, asked countless questions, and even began to prepare their home for the potential new additions to their family. As Ruby's recovery progressed, the bond between the dogs and the Thompsons grew stronger. Max, initially cautious around strangers, began to wag his tail excitedly whenever John and Lisa arrived. Ruby, too, seemed to sense the kindness and love emanating from the couple, often seeking their attention during their visits. The clinic staff watched this budding relationship with a mixture of joy and bittersweet emotions. They had grown deeply attached to Ruby and Max, but they knew that finding a loving forever home was the best outcome for the pair. As the day of Ruby's potential release approached, excitement and anticipation filled the air. The Thompsons had completed all necessary preparations, including multiple home visits and consultations with animal behaviorists to ensure a smooth transition for Ruby and Max. The morning of the release dawned bright and clear. The clinic buzzed with activity as staff members made final preparations. Ruby, now fully recovered, pranced around excitedly, sensing the change in the air. Max, ever vigilant, stayed close to her side, his tail wagging with nervous energy. When the clinic doors opened, Ruby and Max stepped out into the sunlight, their eyes squinting against the bright morning. The Thompsons stood nearby, their faces a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. Ethan, who had been by the dog's side throughout their journey, felt a lump in his throat as he watched the pair take their first steps towards their new life. Ruby's gait was steady, a testament to her remarkable recovery. Max, ever vigilant, stayed close to her side, his body language protective yet relaxed. The clinic staff gathered around, their eyes misty with a combination of joy and sadness. For months, these two dogs had been a part of their daily lives, and now it was time to say goodbye. John knelt down, holding out his hand to Ruby and Max. The dogs approached cautiously, sniffing his outstretched palm. After a moment's hesitation, Ruby's tail began to wag, and she leaned into John's touch. Max, taking his cue from Ruby, also moved closer, allowing Lisa to gently stroke his head. The journey to their new home was filled with a mix of emotions. Ruby and Max sat in the back of the Thompsons' SUV, their eyes wide as they watched the city landscape give way to suburban streets. Lisa turned in her seat, offering soft words of reassurance to the dogs. Max's ears perked up at the sound of her voice, while Ruby pressed closer to him, drawing comfort from his familiar presence. When they pulled into the driveway of a charming two-story house, Ruby and Max's tails began to wag tentatively. The front yard was spacious, with a large oak tree providing shade over a well-manicured lawn. John and Lisa exchanged a smile, hoping that this sight would be the first of many happy moments for their new family members. Slowly, carefully, they introduced Ruby and Max to their new home. The dogs' noses worked overtime, taking in the myriad of new scents. They explored the living room, their paws sinking into plush carpets. In the kitchen, 2 new food and water bowls awaited them, already filled in anticipation of their arrival. The backyard proved to be a particular delight. As John opened the sliding glass door, Ruby and Max's ears perked up at the sight of the expansive green space. A gentle slope led down to a small pond, where ducks paddled lazily in the afternoon sun. For a moment, the dogs hesitated, looking back at John and Lisa as if seeking permission. With a gentle nod from Lisa, Ruby took her first tentative steps onto the grass. Max followed close behind, his protective instincts never wavering. Suddenly, as if a switch had been flipped, Ruby broke into a run. Her golden coat shimmered in the sunlight as she raced across the yard, her legs strong and sure. Max, caught up in her enthusiasm, chased after her, their joyful barks filling the air. John and Lisa watched from the patio, their hearts swelling with emotion. This was more than they could have hoped for, to see these two dogs, who had been through so much, playing freely and happily in their new home. Ethan's words echoed in their minds, reminding them of the long and difficult journey that had brought Ruby and Max to this moment. The days that followed were filled with new discoveries and adjustments. Ruby and Max quickly settled into a routine, learning the rhythms of their new household. Mornings began with a walk around the neighborhood, where they gradually became familiar faces to the local residents. Many neighbors, having heard snippets of their story, would stop to greet the dogs, marveling at Ruby's recovery and the obvious bond between the pair. John and Lisa were diligent in following the care instructions provided by the clinic. Ruby's leg, though healed, still required regular checkups and occasional physical therapy. The Thompsons turned these necessary trips into positive experiences, always following up vet visits with a stop at the local pet store for a new toy or treat. Max, true to his nature, remained Ruby's constant companion and protector. He seemed to have appointed himself as her personal physical therapist, encouraging her to play and exercise in the backyard. Their games of fetch became a daily ritual, with Max always ensuring that Ruby had the first chance to retrieve the ball. Ruby and Max's presence transformed the Thompson household. The house, once quiet and somewhat somber after the loss of their previous dog, now rang with the sound of paws on hardwood floors and the occasional playful bark. John and Lisa found themselves laughing more, their hearts lightened by the unconditional love and joy that Ruby and Max brought into their lives. The dog's influence extended beyond the confines of their new home. During their daily walks, Ruby and Max became ambassadors of sorts for rescue animals. Neighbors and passers-by, drawn by their story, would often stop to chat with John and Lisa. Many were inspired to consider adopting rescue animals themselves, touched by the resilience and love demonstrated by Ruby and Max. One quiet evening, about 6 months after Ruby and Max had settled into their new home, John and Lisa sat on the back patio, watching the two dogs playfully chasing one another across the yard. Ruby's golden fur gleamed in the setting sun, and Max's watchful eyes held a new lightness as he joined in the fun, his protective instincts softened by a deep sense of security. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the yard, Ruby trotted over to Lisa and rested her head on her lap, her eyes half closed in contentment. Max followed, settling at John's feet, leaning in with a trust that had taken months to grow. John and Lisa exchanged a glance over their beloved dogs' heads, each feeling a quiet gratitude that didn't need words. From a busy New York street to this tranquil backyard, Ruby and Max had traveled a road of challenges and transformation. They had found their way to a place where they belonged, a place of love and safety that filled every corner of their lives. And John and Lisa, in turn, had found their lives brightened by the love and resilience of the two dogs they had taken in. What had started as an act of kindness had become a bond that completed their family. As night settled in, John and Lisa stayed on the patio. Ruby and Max nestled close, drifting off in peaceful slumber. The journey that had brought them here seemed both long and unexpectedly short, each step blending into the present. Together they sat in the soft glow of dusk, a family bound by love, each heart full and at peace. And in the stillness of the night, as Ruby and Max dreamed by the faint city lights, they embodied a truth that every heart, whether human or animal, seeks. The most remarkable journeys begin the moment someone says, "Welcome home." A dramatic situation left a mother tigress powerless, unable to protect her cub from imminent danger. Just as all hope seemed lost, an unexpected hero appeared. What happened next will leave you speechless,